My mother leaned across the pristine marble table of the Italian ristorante, gesturing toward my sister's new boyfriend with her wineglass. "Don't worry about Maya," she said, her voice dripping with that nauseating, practiced sweetness she used on business associates. "She's our eternal project, still trying to figure out her path in the grown-up world." The man, Marcus, didn't smile. He just looked at me, his eyes narrowing slightly as if he were analyzing a complicated puzzle. "My name is Maya Chen, and I'm 31 years old. For as long as I can remember, I have been the whisper in a family that only valued volume. My parents built a commercial real estate empire in San Francisco, and my younger sister, Jade, was the perfect daughter who followed flawlessly in their footsteps. Their world was aggressive, polished, and obsessed with appearances. They measured human value in property portfolios, private club access, and the price of the watch on a wrist. And then there was me. I didn't want to lease office buildings. I wanted to revolutionize healthcare. I started my own medical technology company from the corner of my cramped studio apartment in the Mission District. My life was the constant buzz of a development lab, powered by instant ramen and endless nights. To my family, this wasn't drive, it was a refusal to mature. They saw my bargain store clothes and my absence from their constant networking events not as sacrifices for a venture, but as evidence that I couldn't succeed. I think they loved me in some way, but they were deeply, profoundly embarrassed by me. What they didn't know was that my silent little existence was about to roar. Has your family ever treated you like a burden to be managed instead of a person? Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I read every single one. The entire reason we were at Bellissimo that night was for Jade's relationship announcement dinner. She was dating Marcus, a man my family was practically idolizing. He was a managing director at a prestigious private equity firm in New York, the kind of man my parents had dreamed Jade would attract. To impress him, they had reserved the exclusive wine cellar dining room. The air smelled of vintage barrels and superiority. The dinner felt less like a celebration and more like a corporate negotiation. My dad launched into his typical speech, inflating Jade's recent property deals. My mom wouldn't stop praising Marcus's investment acumen, a subject my mother understood absolutely nothing about. I just sat there, moving a risotto around my plate, feeling the familiar, suffocating weight of being invisible. Finally, the attention turned to me, and the atmosphere in the room seemed to freeze. "Maya is still experimenting with her technology thing," my mom explained to Marcus, touching my shoulder with a patronizing gentleness that stung worse than a wound. "We keep encouraging her to be realistic." Jade chimed in with a confident smile, adjusting her designer bracelet. "Yeah, we've offered to secure her an administrative position at the company. Reception, data entry, just to get her accustomed to a professional setting. But she prefers her independence." Marcus, attempting to be courteous, turned his analytical, penetrating eyes toward me. "What kind of venture is it?" Before I could even respond, my mother interrupted, waving her hand as if dismissing a trivial matter. "Darling, it's tedious. She's developing some gadget, one of 1,000 out there. It's a pastime, really," she sighed, a heavy, dramatic sound that implied my existence was a cross she nobly bore. For the next 15 minutes, they dissected me as if I wasn't sitting right there. They constructed an image of a confused, aimless woman who refused to accept responsibility. I felt the anger rising in my chest, but I said nothing. I just concentrated on the water droplets sliding down my glass. The final blow came when the check arrived in its leather portfolio. My dad made an elaborate display of extracting his platinum card. He looked directly at me, a pitying expression on his face. "Don't stress about the expense, Maya. I've got this. You just conserve your earnings for utilities." The message was unmistakable. You are the dependent. You are not our equal. I just nodded, the silence in my throat feeling like stone. But this wasn't novel. This was just the peak of a lifetime of rejections. 6 weeks before the dinner, my parents hosted an extravagant midsummer gala at their Napa estate. It was the gathering of the season. Developers, executives, city council members. I only discovered it when I saw the images on my aunt's Facebook. My entire family raising glasses on the terrace. Everyone except me. When I called my mom the following day, her voice was casual, airy. "Oh, sweetheart, we didn't want to stress you. It was a very sophisticated crowd. Lots of complex discussion about markets. We didn't want you to feel inferior." Inferior, that was the word. It wasn't an accident, it was exclusion. They were safeguarding their reputation from the contamination of my perceived failure. The public degradations were even more painful. Last Memorial Day, at a colleague's cookout, my dad held court by the pool. "Jade is expanding to the Seattle market next month," he announced to a circle of people. "And Maya, well, she's discovering herself." He made quotation gestures with his beer bottle. The circle laughed. He used my life as entertainment to make himself appear like the tolerant, understanding father. I left that afternoon with his mockery echoing in my mind. It was the sound of my own father broadcasting to the world I was worthless. The final straw, however, was the text from Jade 4 days before the announcement dinner. "Hey, Maya," she wrote, her message oozing with artificial concern. "I was thinking, with the dinner approaching, I know finances are challenging for you. I can transfer you $600. Go purchase an outfit that doesn't look like it came from a clearance rack. I want you to look appropriate for Marcus. First impressions count." Appropriate. She didn't want to support me, she wanted to manage me. She wanted to guarantee her struggling sister didn't tarnish the polished image she was presenting to her new boyfriend. "Thanks, Jade," I said, my voice deceptively calm. "But I have something to wear. I'll be fine." "Are you certain?" she pushed. "I just want everything to be flawless." "I'm certain," I said, and ended the call. What they didn't see, what they never bothered to investigate, was my truth. What my family perceived as failure was actually strategic silence. While they were playing golf, I was on 3 a.m. video conferences with my engineers in Singapore. While they were boasting about 6-figure commissions, I was finalizing a Series A funding round with a coalition of global investors who recognized the revolutionary potential of my platform, Vital Diagnostics. They heard gadget and thought toys. They didn't know I was developing an AI-powered diagnostic device that was currently being evaluated by 4 major hospital systems. I was under a rigid non-disclosure agreement until the funding finalized. I couldn't tell them, so I let them believe what they wanted. I remember sitting at my workstation the night Jade offered me charity funds. I had just authenticated the final electronic agreements. The valuation of my company exceeded my father's entire portfolio. The contradiction was so profound I could feel it. Back at the restaurant, the atmosphere was oppressive. Throughout the meal, Marcus was the only one who seemed to actually notice me. While my family spoke over me, he kept redirecting the conversation. "What clinical problem is your device solving?" he asked me, his voice cutting through my mother's rambling about interior design. "What's your capital efficiency ratio?" My parents shifted uncomfortably. They didn't understand what capital efficiency meant. They knew how to sell properties and investments, not build technology. Jade laughed anxiously. "Marcus, babe, don't interrogate her. She's not in our category. You work with real innovators, billion-dollar companies. Maya is just experimenting." She said it without cruelty, which made it worse. She genuinely believed it. The barrier broke when my mother exhaled, looking at me with sorrowful eyes. "We just pray she meets a good, dependable man to support her soon. Someone to handle the finances so she can abandon this foolishness." Marcus's polite expression disappeared. He placed his utensils down with a purposeful sound. He looked from my mother's worried face to my composed one. I saw the understanding flash in his eyes. He leaned forward. "What did you say the name of your company was, Maya?" My pulse accelerated. This was it. I met his gaze. "Vital Diagnostics." Marcus's eyes expanded. He froze. The room went silent. He wasn't the courteous boyfriend anymore. He was the predator from Wall Street. "Vital?" he repeated, the words suspended heavily in the air. "Wait, you're MC Chen?" My father laughed, a nervous, bewildered sound. "Yes, Chen is our surname. What's your meaning?" Marcus ignored him. He looked at me with a combination of admiration and shock. "You're the founder? The phantom of Silicon Valley?" I just nodded, taking a sip of my water. Marcus spun his head toward Jade. You said you wanted to introduce me to innovators. My firm has been attempting to schedule a meeting with MC Chen for 7 months. We have a prepared proposal to anchor her Series A, but we couldn't penetrate her legal barriers. He retrieved his phone and placed it on the table, screen facing my family. It was a TechCrunch article. The headline proclaimed, "The Hidden Revolution: How Vital Diagnostics Became a $35 million Breakthrough in Medical Silence." There was no photograph of me, just my company logo, but the name MC Chen was highlighted in the opening paragraph. "This is her?" Marcus asked, his voice escalating. "This is the little project you were ridiculing." My father stared at the phone, his face losing color until he resembled a ghost. My mother's mouth moved, but no words emerged. Jade looked from the screen to me, her expression shattering into disbelief, envy, and complete terror. All the insults, dependent, failure, waste of potential, floated in the air, toxic and absurd. I didn't realize," my father stuttered. "No," Marcus said icily, "you didn't inquire." For the first time in my life, my family had absolutely nothing to say. Their silence was the most exquisite music I had ever heard. I didn't scream, I didn't create a scene. I simply placed my napkin down beside my plate. I stood up, smoothing the front of the dress I had purchased with my own money that could purchase this entire establishment 4 times over. "It was a pleasure to meet you, Marcus," I said warmly. "Have your team contact my chief of staff on Monday. We can discuss the Series A." Then I looked at my family. They looked diminished, collapsed. "I have an investor call at 6 a.m., I said, my voice unwavering. "Enjoy the wine. Dad, you've got the check, correct?" I walked out of the private room. I didn't look back. I walked through the dining area and out into the cool evening air of the city. The silence behind me wasn't the silence of me being dismissed. It was the silence of a power structure collapsing. They didn't lose a daughter that night. They had lost her years ago, with every dismissal and every contemptuous remark. Tonight, they just realized they had lost the privilege of knowing the woman I had become. If you've ever had to build your empire in silence while the world doubted you, hit that subscribe button. This is your safe space. If this story hit you hard, made you rage, cry, or cheer for justice, don't let it fade into silence. Smash that like button. It shows the world these raw, real stories of betrayal and triumph actually matter. Drop a comment below. Tell us what got you. Whose side are you on? What would you have done? Your voice fuels the fire. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Spread the payback, warn the betrayed, and let the echoes of karma echo further. Subscribe to the Echoes of Revenge right now for exclusive gut-wrenching tales of strength, deception, and ice-cold justice you won't find anywhere else. Hit the bell icon, all notifications on, so the next explosive story lands in your feed the second it drops. Your likes, comments, shares, and subs keep these silenced voices alive. And sometimes, the sweetest revenge isn't staying quiet. It's being heard loud and clear. Thank you for being part of this community. Let's keep the echoes ringing.